Must be 6. Everybody got quiet in a hurry. We are all present and accounted for. You know, I requested that we add tour of the high school facility, just because we don't get around as much as we should, just to see how everything is going. But at the same time, we have a basketball game this evening, so I don't want to infringe where we shouldn't be. So let's take F off for this evening, which is probably okay with Dave, because I never introduced it to him in the beginning. I just said we're going to do this. Aside from that, does anyone have any additions or other deletions to the agenda? If not,
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I would look for a motion and a second. Jerry? Rob? Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Item 4, approval of the past minutes, December 17th and 14th. I hope you had a chance to review them all. They were pretty in-depth.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Pat, seconded by Kurt. Other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Scheduled presenters, we have none, correct?
It technically is listed as me, but we'll get into that later when we start talking about reductions. I'll do my presentation then.
Okay.
Could I just break in real quick that we have, and is it okay if I say this, Teresa, we have Cub Scouts troop, what number is it?
239.
239 here this evening, so they can take in a public service.
Good job. Can you see okay, or do you want to come up closer? Are you okay? You're okay, all right.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you for coming.
Not my chair.
We would give you Mr. Doherty's chair if you wanted.
Sit in the back.
Thanks for the acknowledgement, Kurt. Finance report. We have no Josh, so who would you like to take that over?
You know, we don't have much of a report on there. If you have any questions on the cash flow activity, you know, we've got a lot of other things on the docket tonight. We can certainly go through those things. A lot of you look at it ahead of time and email questions, which is always great. We can sometimes get through things ahead of time. Without Josh here, I can certainly help you if you have any questions on that. No substantial changes. This is at kind of that time of year where everything's just kind of flowing along. But if you, especially on the bills, if you have anything you would like to ask, go ahead.
Well, I've looked it over and I'm ready to approve the finance report.
It's a pretty simple one this month.
Yep.
Pat's approved the finance
I'll
report.
second.
Brenda has seconded. Other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Under old business, transportation department. Certainly it's something that we haven't had new buses here, or we haven't had a correct rotation here of our buses in a number of years. And through no fault of anyone, we just have to prioritize and try to keep as much money in education as we can. And we have a very good staff down there, including our mechanics, and they've kept our fleet up pretty well through the years. But I would say, just in casual conversation, we're short in buses, anywhere between 4 or 5 new buses we could use. And I think what really brought it to light, in my opinion, is when we spent, how much?
First time 16,000, the second time 24,000.
So we essentially spent a bunch of money just to keep our buses afloat and passing our DOT inspections. But we can't keep putting postage, you know, we can't keep piecemealing our buses together. So at a meeting probably December, I just threw out there that maybe we should look at contract services or something other than what we're doing, because we can't afford 80,000 times 5 buses and won't be able to afford that for the foreseeable future. You know, having begun that conversation, Rob and I are on the transportation committee, and we have had conversations with both a present employee, I guess down there, a contract employee, and a bus service. Not to get any commitments from the bus service at all, just to, being new in this, where are we gonna go, and should we go that direction? Maybe Rob, you can just take over some of that conversation from there.
Yeah, I mean, Bob and I met last month, and we've had a couple of discussions on looking at all options before we move forward. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of covering the options from, like Bob was saying, full contract services, selling the buses, bringing in an outside entity that maintains the buses, maintains the routes, maintains the drivers, everything. Buys the fuel, and it happens on the bus, stays on the bus, it's no longer school property. To a partial, which is, do we keep our equipment? Because we feel once we sell it, if this is a decision we make, there's no point of, there's no coming back. But so partially contracting out but keeping the assets, or do we keep everything as it is? We just passed the DOT this month with 0 write-ups, which is phenomenal, considering the age of the buses and what we've got to work with. But at some point, we're gonna have to, if we don't go to contract services, replace them. And we've looked at leasing, we're looking at leasing to own, and looking at the interest rates. And we've gotten some pricing from some companies, but very preliminary. And I know we're kind of under a timeline here of April 1, March, somewhere in there. So we're gonna be working to bring something to the board on, as we go through this process, how we wanna proceed, what makes the most sense. And of course, going to contract services, to me, there's a lot more to look at, whether it be the buildings, do we keep them, do we not, what's our cost? If we don't use them anymore, what do we do with them? Does the new company want to use them? So there's a lot more entailed if we go to a contract services, whereas if we lease the buses but contract out just partial services, everything else pretty much stays the same. It's just buying new buses. So I think that's pretty much where we're at, but yeah, we've got about 2 more months.
Here's a question I have. Have either of you, or maybe even Beth, talked to any of the schools that previously had buses and sold them to contracted services? And what is their opinion? Do they feel they wish they'd had the buses back, or that it's a good thing that they sold them?
It's really mixed. I mean, I can show you all the calls I've made. Everyone's got a little different perspective on it. If you're cutting administration, you're taking away that headache too, so a lot of them are, the cost effectiveness there is great. I think towns our size often regret selling their buses and their land, or, you can't ever go back.
Right.
So I would say the schools that I've called that are very similar to Cannon Falls often regret selling it, because down the road, it's that initial money, but then 2 years down the road, you're really paying out for. Right now, we're in a great time for gas prices. We're reaping the benefits of that. If we were contracted, we'd be stuck at a price. So there's good and bad. I mean, it's both sides. I can appreciate the work that they've done, looking at all options. Yep. And another option too is simply waiting another year, piecemealing it together another year. Our buses are extremely safe. They obviously passed all of MnDOT's tests. So I'm not opposed to doing it again, because we may have to, but we'll see where things are at. But there's a lot of options, and I think it's good that we talk about it a lot, but this hasn't been recent. We've been, gosh, probably a year now, this whole school year, talking about this.
Right. What's the average age of our buses? How many are under 15 years or less?
9 years is the average.
Right. How, and the average for our buses now? Okay.
When you look at each time we make a decision to buy a new bus, we have to take money from somewhere else in this school. And we've done so much to pare down and become efficient that it goes in a different direction after a while. $80,000 for a new bus, does that mean we have to cut educators somewhere?
Yeah, and saying that too, though, we'll still be paying out too if we contract, correct? I mean, so the money's, and we bet something we just need to look at.
Well, there'd be initial payback, because you would sell your assets. So you would get revenue initially.
Okay.
But yeah, then you're gonna be paying out at the cost. And I think a lot of what we've gotta do is understand every cost. I mean, you can say, okay, 10 routes, you're done. But we don't just do that. We do the 10 routes, we do the activities, we do the different runs, where are we allowed, the special education that we've got going on. So there's a lot of little pieces that can add up to a lot of money. And we don't want to make that wrong decision and go, oh, we didn't look at this thoroughly, and now it's costing us dearly in 2 years.
I mean, even the simple stuff from running from the CCC students back to the high school, now it might cost us a $10 bill. If it's contracted, it might cost a $100 bill every time it happens. It
Right.
happens multiple times a day, I guess.
One of the things that we're looking at that, I guess as a district, we either haven't for a while or never have, I don't know. I know districts typically like to pay out cash for a bus. And money is cheap right now with interest rates, so to lease them with a lease to own, so you're paying over a 5-year period, getting 3 buses for basically would be the price of 1, or even less than that. You think we're talking like 30-some thousand a year to get 3 buses. Now you pay longer and you're committed to it, but it doesn't hit you up front. Where you, 80,000 one bus. Okay, 80,000 again next year, 1 bus.
But
So,
question I have is, if we don't come to a resolve sometime or another, do we say, okay, if we're gonna go another year, we better go out and consider buying a bus here this year? Because if not, now we're set back another year. You know, at what point do we commit and say we're gonna buy a bus versus saying, okay, we're gonna put it off and now we need to buy 2 buses, oh, now we need to buy 3, you know?
I think the first step is to figure out which direction we want to go. If we're going to maintain everything in-house, then the next plan is, okay, how do we replenish our buses so we stay or get back on course? We need to at least to buy 3 buses initially, and we're good for 4 more years, and then we do it again, or that's all part of the process.
Didn't several years ago they have a transportation fund, and then did that roll back over into the general fund?
The general fund, yeah. That's been a long time though.
Yeah.
That's been a long time, Jerry.
It was before
We used
I
to
started
have,
here, but.
we used to have a lot of different funds.
Yeah.
We did.
Too many different.
That have all
funds,
been
obviously.
rolled
That's
over
true.
into the
You're right,
general
you're absolutely
fund.
right.
So they could afford to buy buses every, on a rotating,
Mhm.
okay.
You know, it's, a lot has to do with finance, but when Rob and I have discussed this in the past, I come from a little bit differently, more of an efficiency thing. We've, since we pared down admin, we also asked them to take on more for the people that have left us. And transportation can take a disproportionate amount of our day. And from an efficiency standpoint, is it best just to say, let somebody else handle this? We'll take care of what happens inside the buildings. And schools have gone to this. You know, I'm not sure about Beth's conversations. We haven't talked about some of the contracts and things like that. But Rob and I were going to do a couple of field trips and just talk to some other districts. So, you know, this is an event that if we say we're going to sell them, we're not turning back ever again probably. So it's a big deal. But at the same time, money's a big deal.
Right.
So
If we have the right people in place at the bus garage, can a lot of that come off of your plate for the district, if we have the right people in place?
I think we currently have the right people in place. They're doing a great job.
Yep.
The efficiency at the bus garage has just been great. We've added a lot of Lori's time down there. So again, it's district office pulling out of there. It certainly is time consuming with personnel in my office. But I think we've got some good people, like our coordinators doing a nice job, things like that.
Okay, let me throw this out then. What would it take to take it off? So Lori's not spending a bunch of her district office time down there.
Contracted services is the only way you'd get that out of there. Someone's got to do those things.
Right.
I mean, someone has to take on those jobs.
we have talked to another contracted employee down there who may be interested in taking some of that
Yeah.
on.
Okay.
So that might be
We've
our
got other
other
options
alternative.
going there.
But
Right.
it's too much premature to talk
Mhm.
about it right now, but we're just not set on contracted services or nothing at all. We're trying to look at as many as we can.
Getting very creative.
And I think part of the checks and balances is some people will say you'll give up responsibility, but at the same time, you are relieved of issues as well. So it really depends on how you might be looking at a situation. Routes, for example, if we went contract services, no one here would have to worry about routes. They'd be taken care of. Well, do you give up that control, or do you give up the responsibility and not have to worry about them anymore? So it's.
I'll give up calling snow days. That'd be fine with me.
Well, and, that's another thing, correlates and all that.
I'm kidding.
But it is, do you give up control or do you give up responsibility? And it can be the same thing.
Well, and I
How
think.
you look at it.
I think in the end, you end up giving up both. But I think you also pay for that. then I guess. It's early.
Yep.
I know you guys have a lot of, you've been working on it, I know there's still a lot left to be done, but.
Yep, and, yeah, we will try to come to some conclusions. We've been told the 1st of May is actually that spot we don't want to go past, but, you know, 1st of April, middle April, we can do it, we will.
Yep.
Are we gonna be looking at bids from more than one
Oh,
service?
sure, sure. And,
Because until we know
and
the
references
cost,
as
yeah,
well,
it's
you know,
different.
there's certainly some more full-service ones we're finding out, and some that just do certain elements of that, so. Where do we get our best bang for the buck, I guess?
Yep.
Great.
Anything else? Okay, let's move on to new business under the consent agenda. These are some items considered routine. If you have a chance to look over those.
Please add Laura Qualley to the elementary as a paraprofessional. Anything else, Lori? Just that one?
That's it.
Yeah.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Brenda, seconded by Jerry. Other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Approval of the expenditures for December and January.
A lot of you emailed your questions in early and was able to sort through a lot of those. That always helps. But if you have any more, please ask.
I looked them over and I'm going to make a motion to approve.
Motion by Pat. Second?
I'll second.
Other discussion?
I have a,
Sharon?
have a couple of them here. 38700 TNT audio. I know it's for dance, fees for service. Can, if you don't have the answer, maybe Josh or the dance
That gets
coach
charged back
can-
to dance.
I understand
Oh, okay.
that.
Yep.
But I guess I'm kinda curious on what that's for.
It was for the HBL conference championship on Friday night. You have to have a service come in and do the music and the announcing and stuff like that.
Everyone.
And
Interesting.
that's reimbursed by the HBL.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll
It's
explain.
not a
Then
Cannon
I'm
Falls
good. Okay,
expense, yeah.
then I'm good with that. 38733, it's Goodhue County Education District, and it's the 23034 for the program change. What's that program change?
Anytime we have a special education student move in or move out, that's a program change.
Okay.
Or if their minutes, say they have an IEP meeting and we increase their minutes or decrease their minutes, again, referenced as a program change.
All right.
So, yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
How about 38772, Ryan Electric? Was that underneath, our, did we contract or did we come up with this?
You know, this one came up before, and Dave is here as well, but basically, they came exactly on their bid, but we did put 4 of their bills together, so we could pay them in one.
Oh, okay.
And I can show you exactly all 4 of those bills, but they, again, continue to come in well under what they quote us, so it looks higher, but it's because we put all 4 together.
Okay.
Easier for Josh to write 1 check than 4.
Yep.
Right, do you have one?
He's gonna ask me about the copies. I knew it.
Anything else? All in favor of the bill expenditure, or the approval for January and December expenditures, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that is carried. Item C, consideration to approve the 2013-2014 calendar. You all have received a copy for 2 proposals, right?
One has a spring break, one does not.
Okay, would you like to,
Tim was kind of our lead admin on this, if you don't mind, let's throw it to Tim.
yeah,
Here comes the bus.
Did EA have a vote? Do the teachers know? You guys did have a vote?
We didn't hear anything, did we? We voted.
We voted.
We haven't heard any results.
Well, I guess you're going to get them here soon.
Well, if we,
I talked to Rob Stahusky at
Okay.
the end of the week last week, and he said that the way things were, it looked like the no spring break calendar was the one that was
okay.
there was quite a bit more support for that from the teaching staff.
Okay. Been a pretty close vote in the past. There's never been a real mandate to do one or the other, has there?
Gets everybody out a little early.
Yeah, I don't think,
you know.
he didn't make it sound like this one was close, so, he said it wasn't like last year. A couple of things that are different in this calendar than in the past. The last couple of years, we've had 3 workshop days at the beginning of the year. I think staff has felt, given that the Goodhue County Ed District is taking one of those days, that they need more time in their classrooms to prepare for the beginning of the year. So we tried to get a little bit creative with some of our time, and we put a couple of half-days, I think we did a couple of half-day early release type situations so that we could get that extra half-day of workshop time at the beginning. One of the things that Mr. Bell and I have talked a lot about is our staff development gets a little bit disjointed during the year because we have these 3 staff development half-days, and then half-day work day. But there's not really a kind of a flow of those. We might do one thing on one day in November and then do something completely different in January, and then in March something completely different. So one of the things that we've built into this calendar is some 1-hour staff development time after school. So that's another place where some of these half-days come into play is instead of having staff development along with those work days, we'll just have a half-day and use that time throughout the year. So a couple of times a quarter, have something that we're going to have a continuous staff development process throughout the whole year next year built into our calendar. Whether that's technology or some of the things with PLCs is yet to be determined. But that was one of the things.
There was talk last fall, I guess, the PLCs being an hour late start and ran all the buses. Was that? I see it's 8:30 still. So
I will
That's
take the
still a
blame
half an
for
hour.
that one.
You take the who?
I will take the blame for
Oh,
that,
okay.
because, when I look at the high school schedule, middle school schedule, the starting at 8:30 as opposed to 9 o'clock just makes everything work. If I go to a 9 o'clock start, then I'm gonna have really disjointed classes, and I'm gonna throw lunch way off. But, the biggest driving force in anything we do when we change our schedule here is lunch, because, we've got 4 lunches that we've got to get in, and we've only got a certain amount of time to do it, so I completely take the blame for that. And a half hour as opposed to an hour, so.
Hadn't heard anything more than so I just wondered.
My original calendar had a few more PLC late start days in it than are in this one, so.
We got 12.
Yeah, there are 12 there. I had added 5 more, but that was quickly cut off the calendar, so.
We need, this is the first year for the elementary. A lot of parents have called. A lot of you have had parents call you with concerns on that. We're just getting into the routine of things. I think it's good to stay the course because we know it's great for teachers and it's good for our school. But before we add any more days, I'd like to see some data and some PLC data coming back to me from these groups. And the principals are prepared to give that to me, but keeping it the way it is this year is a better way to go. And Mr. Hodges can wait.
And I think, with that being said, I think it's a lack of understanding from some of the parents, especially with the kindergarten kids and first grade kids not understanding these half days. What am I supposed to do, take a whole day off? I think there's so many that aren't aware that they could bring their kids to Canna Kids to cover that time, so their
Right.
normal day would still be their normal day.
Right. People are really getting it now. It takes some time. We've received a lot of really positive feedback now. They're seeing what teachers are doing with that time and implementing in their classrooms, and I think it just took time to see that, so we're getting a lot of support on it now.
And the feedback I was getting, granted, were from folks that this is their first kid in
Sure,
school.
makes a big
Never been going
difference.
through this before. I think early.
Well, Joy is here, she'll tell you, her room is full, so
I'm
they're
sure it is.
accessing her, her program.
Well, I'll make the motion that we approve the 2013-14 calendar, which would consist of, I guess, what this,
You gotta pick which ending.
not,
No,
not.
no spring break would
With
be
no spring
ending May
break.
31st.
I'll second that.
do we have a motion and a second to accept the calendar where the school year ends on May 30th?
31st, I think it
30th.
says.
30th.
Okay, yep.
What's wrong with that?
May 30th.
Yep, May 30th.
I don't think there's 31 in May.
Yeah, there's.
There is, but.
There is,
Is
but
there?
not still not yet.
Saturday.
Okay, we're not gonna go on Saturday. So we have a motion by Kurt and a second by Brenda. Thank you. Any other discussion?
I wish I'd have a better feel for the teachers, but I'll trust you that Mr. Stahowski's guiding you the right way.
Boy, I hope.
Because to me, it doesn't make a
you're
difference
right.
if they have a spring break or not, don't matter.
So, all in favor of the calendar which shows a May 30th closing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. Consideration to approve implementing all day, every day, 2013, 2014. We haven't had a ton of conversation about this.
Are we
We are-
voting to consider it or to implement it?
This is consideration.
Just to
This
consider it?
would be a vote. I feel like, well, Lori made an interesting comment the other day. She said, we've actually been talking about this since her daughter Ashley went to kindergarten. It's been talked about that much. And I know I've had a huge push for it since 4 years ago when I became elementary principal, and each year we just haven't had the funding for it. I know most of you are sick of my PowerPoints. I know you're sick of me talking about it. This is what's best for kids. And even when we are looking at cutting, I still think we need to look at what's best for kids. And early literacy is the one thing that is proven to be effective all the way through. I'm extremely passionate about this. I understand budgets are tight. We don't know exactly where Governor Dayton is going to come in on this, but we know there'll be some funding. This is the year to do it. We've got classrooms ready to go. I've got kindergarten programming that's been the best. We talk about these great things in RTI. Kindergarten started our RTI program here the first year I was principal down there. And we piloted it in kindergarten, and then it grew to first and second. And now look at where it's taken off to. The reason why I've asked it to go to a vote is, one, I think I've talked about it enough. You guys are sick of hearing it from me. Two, we can't move any farther in this budgeting process until I know where you guys stand on this. And my next step will be showing you kind of where we're at budgeting wise and what we need to cut and round one discussions. But without knowing where you stand on all day, everyday kindergarten, I don't know where to tell this breakfast club to go next. There will be some cost involved in running all day, everyday kindergarten. And I need to know if this board is committed to that. If we're not, I can handle that, and I will move forward, and we will continue to do amazing things in literacy anyway. I have received a lot of phone calls this week on this topic. There's an understanding out there that kids come here from other towns to come to our kindergarten. That was true 4 and 5 years ago. It was very new. People were scared. I don't want my baby going to kindergarten every day. And so they did come to Cannon Falls because we were the school that didn't have it. When Goodhue started their all-day, everyday program, they had kids that opted out, and they allowed them to opt out. You don't see that anymore. We are now losing students, and I see a lot of elementary people. Phyllis is in the office. People can attest to this. That's no longer the case. Parents now realize, oh, all-day, everyday kindergarten, I don't want my child behind. We are, and I can safely say this, we are the only school within driving distance that doesn't have all-day, everyday. I won't go on any longer, but I really think this is something that we have to at least consider. And if the vote is no, then we will continue doing amazing things. We've got a great Cannon Kids program. Both of my kids went through it, and they're amazing kids. So we're going to be just fine, but I need to know where you stand. So I am asking for a vote tonight.
I'll make a motion to approve all day, every day kindergarten.
I'll second.
Motion by Pat, seconded by whom?
Me.
Jerry?
I think can we have discussion now?
Yes, I was just gonna ask, and I wasn't gonna let it alone.
He's done talking.
I'm not opposed, I realize the importance of early literacy and everything, of course, but I think we need to know what some cost is and what some funding is. I mean, we can't really approve it unless we know. I mean,
Yeah,
voting,
it's
when
gonna.
it comes to a vote, we really need to know.
Yes, you do. Basically, all day, every day kindergarten is gonna cost you $80,000, 40 per teacher roughly, to add that. The governor, I know for sure, is gonna be committing about 20,000. So you know, it's just gonna be a matter of, we've seen numbers as high as 85% funding. I've seen numbers of just free and reduced populations funding. I know for sure we have 20. So you'll see on my chart there, I'm figuring extremely low. So I am asking you to fund $60,000 for all-day, everyday kindergarten, and we will make cuts according to that.
I would love to see the governor's proposal march all the way through, but we know that's not gonna happen.
Mhm.
How would you be assured that 20K is 20K?
Because it's just, there's a commitment behind the free and reduced population for sure, which unfortunately for Cannon Falls is a very small population, and that's why I'm figuring so low on the 20. If it's 85%, it'd obviously be much higher. And that would just be, in my eyes, good news. We can hire back in August. We have hired elementary teachers in August. We have hired principals in August. We have hired some great employees in August. And if he gives us 85% and we want to hire back, we can do that. But to get programming and give Mr. Bell the information he needs to get going, this would mean realignment of teachers moving into kindergarten, moving out of kindergarten. Jake really needs to know for his programming standpoint. So you're right, I'm figuring extremely low on here. I don't know where the proposal's gonna go.
But I guess my question to you is, this is his proposal, and he's gonna march that through the legislative session. If the right of center people say, no, we're not gonna stick another dime in education again this year, then that 20,000 becomes nothing, correct?
That is true, but we have additional literacy aid that's being based off of this year's test scores. So either way, our third graders always test well. I guess we're banking on that. And our fourth graders, we get a percentage of the increase that the fourth graders do as well. So I feel comfortable saying we're gonna have $20,000 commit to this. I think that's actually a really low number, but I feel like we have at least that. And even if you don't wanna figure the 20% or that 20,000 in there, $80,000 committed to early literacy and all-day everyday kindergarten. You are losing students and you will continue to lose students. Every student is worth $6,200.
That's what I was gonna ask, do you have
So-
I know you can't guarantee anything, but any idea like how many students it might be?
It all depends on kindergarten roundup and who comes, but they're leaving, and they'll come back in first grade, but they're gonna, even the economic state right now, they will leave for an all-day program just for daycare purposes. It is cheaper for them to drive them over to Red Wing or Goodhue, Randolph, any program in the area. It's cheaper for them to drive them there than it is to pay for daycare. So we will continue to lose kids just on economic base.
Because if you even had 10 students, that would make a difference.
Yeah, and I don't think it'll ever reach 10, and the reason for that is people love Cannon Falls and they're very committed to Cannon Falls, and we have one of the best Cannon Kids programs ever, but.
So you're figuring then 2 teachers?
Two
That's how you're-
teachers.
That's how you're figuring?
2 teachers.
And if we go over? Which is
We
always be a
won't,
good
here's
thing.
my view on that, then go 3 teachers. I would still rather have high numbers. Kindergarten teachers, don't listen to me right now. I would rather have high numbers and commit to all day, every day. Right now, they see 42 parents, right now. Even if you were to down it to 22 and put more kids in a classroom, they're still seeing 22 parents versus 42 parents. So I don't want to go that route. If you feel committed to do that, then let's do 3 sections and we can see in August where we're at. But
Have you thought of a class cap on how many kids you would want in each class?
we have the guidelines that the Breakfast Club is using. They're the same guidelines I gave you last board meeting. We prefer to have right around 19 kids in a classroom. Our projected numbers for next year are 82, so that would put 20 basically in a room right where we want them to be if we were to go 4 classrooms.
How many teachers do we have now?
We have 2 that go every other day,
Every other day?
and now you would need 4 if you went every day.
That go every day. Do you know what we spend on kindergarten now at this time? How much, whereas resources our general fund is putting in for that now?
Well, it wouldn't change if they were here every day. They're just getting through more materials. Is that what you mean?
I was just wondering how much goes through the kindergarten program now, so.
Well, each one, if you look at a kindergarten, they're weighted more. We get .62 for every kindergartner versus a third grader that's worth 1.0, and then he's got high schoolers that are worth 1.3. And I know that doesn't mean a whole lot, but that's how we do the extra funding for kindergarten.
And the technology upgrades, that would all be there anyways, correct? For-
Yeah, and we'll go through all that the next step, but
Okay.
I don't want to get into any of that until we know kind of where you guys stand on all day, every day.
So if we have kids that come in every other day, we get funding for them every other day.
Correct.
So if they come every day, you get funding every day for them.
But you have to remember right now, for example, we have 10 special education students that come every single day. We don't get any additional funding for
Right.
them. So we're already filling up the classrooms with everyday kids that we get no funding for.
How does this affect Cannon kids?
Cannon Kids program would be no longer, but that teacher is also licensed kindergarten, so we obviously have positions available.
And one of the goals is for RTI to become reduced in the future if we can get
That's
ahead of it. or
exactly
not.
what Mr. Bell and I think Jamie Winchell, that's the message I got from their presentation last week was, ideally, you always, that's the goal you're working for. And the earlier you start that program, I mean, our preschool numbers, Jake can attest this, are through the roof. Parents are putting a value in education, and we have to support that as well.
Don't disagree.
Mr. Bell, you've been pretty quiet.
I don't even have a name tag.
We know who you are.
Yeah. You know, no, I'm good. You know, I agree everything that Beth says. You know, early literacy is extremely important. There's plenty of data and research out there to support that. You know, I see kids coming in early, and you know, we work with them every day in RTI, and I wonder what that would be like if we had the kids here every single day, working with what we need to you know, instill in them before they get into 1st through 6th grade, or you know, and it's curious. I'm not sure that it's going to be perfect, but I think it's money well spent to have the kids in Cannon Falls here in kindergarten every single day.
Can you think of any place else in elementary or high school that could be addressed, is more pertinent to be addressed at this time than all day, every day kindergarten? That absolutely needs to be addressed now.
Maybe math at the high school, but I think what Mr. Bell is, or Mr. Hodges is doing with his math specialist is addressing that. I cannot think of another area personally. This would be my top, and obviously why I'm so passionate about it. It's our one thing.
I would agree, 100%.
Well, I would say reading at the high school also along with math, but
Sure.
we're working on that too. So.
Yeah.
And this would be an investment to you know, working towards that. I mean, the earlier we can intervene with these kids, and really it doesn't become intervening anymore once they're here every day and we've got them in our program. So
We're
you look at it
negative
as an investment.
72,000 right now in special education. If this RTI and we can get to these kids now, and even work on behaviors every day, that routine, we might reduce some of our special education issues down the road. I mean, this is just, it's such an investment for, even if there's no funding from the government, it's time. I mean, we're just at that breaking point. So.
I know we're making cuts a lot of the times, but I think we also have to invest in our education too, and we gotta provide a good service for our community, so I think that's a good idea.
I just gotta tell you're passionate about it, Beth.
I wish I had more emotion about it.
Tell us how you really feel, please.
Anything else? We have a motion by Pat, a second by Jerry, to implement all-day, everyday kindergarten effective the next school year. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried.
Yes.
Wow.
We don't have to go out that door.
Thank you, everyone. No words. Thank you.
No tears either, please.
You already said one.
Well, we know you had a passion for it, and we certainly had other teachers speak to it as well, so Maybe a long time coming, but it's here.
This is tough spending money when you gotta make cuts, but like you say, you have to invest someplace.
Discussion, round one of reductions. First of all, you know, reductions are something that we have to begin procedurally every year, and I think last meeting we okayed the reduction discussion beginning. Light conversation about the referendum. I would hope reductions is a little premature, like I hope discussion about referendum. We had, three of us had an opportunity to go to the MSBA convention, the school board convention, and I'm sure Beth will speak to that when her turn comes up. But having been around here a long time, I think it was 6 years ago when we met as a board chairman throughout the state with our MSBA lobbyist, for lack of a better term. And he was blunt at that time. He said, don't expect any new money and expect your current money to decrease or stay the same over the next 6 years. And there was no way that it got glossed over at that meeting. He said, expect zero. Now, for the first time since that time, you know, maybe Rob and Kurt can speak to it, we've had just a little bit of positive discussion come out of that. And certainly we have a pro-education governor, and at least one of our houses is would also, I think, lean that way. But let's just hope our reductions can stay minimal. Hope that the legislature gives us what we so desperately need to operate here. So, having said that, there's a list of reductions that are at least in a discussion.
I haven't passed that out yet. I thought I would start, and I was going to do it on the board, but that gets to be kind of hard for everyone to see. I thought I would share with you how we got to the magic number of $350,000. The Breakfast Club has met many times already, several times already, and we all are in agreement of the number we need to find. I'll start at the top. We would like to continue our RTI teachers and our DAC teacher. So we need that, but it's also being funded. So you'll see in the first column I put 81,000, it's being funded. So no cuts are needed in that area. We need to find $50,000 to put back into staff development. As you remember, the legislature voted to not have us do the 1% set aside. We cut all staff development last year. We promised the teachers we would put that back in. 1% would be $75,000. The teachers and Breakfast Club agreed to the $50,000. So we're going to look for $50,000 there to get some staff development back in for our teachers. Technology upgrades, again, similar to, you know, we need to improve things as well. We can't just cut. We need to be up to date. We need to be, in all that. So the technology committee is looking for $25,000 in technology upgrades. All day, everyday kindergarten, $80,000 with a commitment of $20,000 funded. We also will have some carryover for one position that we readjusted after cuts of last year. So I'm going to put $20,000 of that as funded. TRA mandate. The government has, again, mandated that we set aside 7%. This year it's 6.5, and last year it was 6. Unfortunately, those mandates cost money. They don't give us money when they mandate things. They just tell us we have to do it. It's $26,000 for all of our staff that receive TRA. We have to find that. Contract settlements, I'm doing the best I can in guessing here. The teachers took a freeze the last 2 years. We are well below other schools. Besides the point, I plugged in 2% for contract settlements. If you guys want that to be a different number, it sure can be. I'm doing what other superintendents and other schools use for a number. So you'll see 84,000 there. I did plug in enrollment reduction of 12. The last 2 years, they've told us we're having reductions, and we've gone up. I hope our third year is still another charm. We will track those kids down. Anyone that even thinks about open enrolling will have a visit from me at their doorstep, and I will tell them why they should be in Cannon Falls. But I think we should use the number that's projected in cuts. Staffing minutes to the elementary. I won't get into detail on this, but Mr. Bell really has a great idea to get more contact minutes with students. Right now, they have 30 minutes lunch and 30 minutes recess, and although that's great for kids, it's wasted time. They're only with us for 7 hours. So he's got a plan to get them out at recess a little bit shorter of a time. They don't need 30 minutes to eat, I can guarantee you that. They're sitting there after 10 minutes, you know, throwing peas at the ceiling. No, not our kids, but anyway, we will need 12,000 there. So what we need to find to make Cannon Falls the best that it can be is 432,000. We have funding of 101. That makes our cut that we need 331,000. Now you're saying, why are you referring it to 350? It's always good to kind of go a little above that if we can, in case the board decides to not go with those things. Does everyone understand this sheet and how I got to the number? Nora, I will get all this to you as well. Okay, with that said, the Breakfast Club has been meeting. We have a first round discussion items. In no way do I want you to vote on this. Just like last year, I thought it was really great how we could talk about things and then you guys go out into the community, see where people are at. Last year you took things off our list, which is absolutely fine. Last year you asked us to go look for things, and that's fine too. So every round you will have one round of discussions where I'm sure you'll get a lot of people just like we did last year, and then the following meeting is when you'll be doing your voting. So why don't I run through these and then you can open it up for discussion at the end. Is that okay, or do you want to go one by one?
No, let's just
go through them.
Take them all.
Currently we have 2.2 nurses. We would like to take it down to 2.0. We feel that 1.0 at the elementary and 1.0 at the high school would be sufficient. Right now they do cover Riverside, and Sherry Johnson is willing to hire her own nurse for that for next year. So that should help that number a little bit. Technology coordinator reconfigurement. I'm working with Marco. Don't know how to. We have someone that has indicated very strongly that they are retiring. We'll have to work with that down the road. Right now, it looks like we can do a reconfigurement very easily of 30,000 on that with Marco. The next one is a stipend for special ed coordinator. The actual amount is 6,000. The amount that we can cut is 3,200 because that's the amount that isn't reimbursed by special education. We can then say that no one in the district gets any stipends, although I will say this person is worth her weight in gold for the $6,000. We just don't have the money anymore for stipends. The next one is cashier hours. The district and the Breakfast Club committee really struggled with this one. We are looking at having one district-wide cashier. That could either be housed in the district office or wherever it made sense there. You're probably wondering, only 12,000? That's just for the cashier hours. We currently have an elementary cashier that also works a great deal of her time in the kitchen. That's coded under Wendy and her coding. So that's why the number is 12,200. Music supervisors for events. It's come to the time where we just ask for volunteers. If you need a door holder, if you need someone, we are not paying site managers to work music events anymore. So it's $2,700 on that. And you see the exact amounts on there. 10% instructional supplies. This year we took it from Mr. Hodges directly from his principal account. We never took it out of the individual teacher's accounts. So he was able to find $11,800 in that area. Elementary will be looking at this, just not quite ready for round one. Operations equipment, that's Dave's department. We have hit custodial a lot. We can't go any more staffing down, but Dave was great enough to look through his budget and he found $5,000 in equipment. Clock operator for C-Squad games might sound silly, but our community is coming up with some really great ideas. No matter how small they are, this one's only worth $500, but if volleyball can do it, so can basketball. So it's a small amount, but again, we're gonna put everything we can think of on here. Thought Jake came up with a really great idea. We currently have 3 teams that rotate uniforms. We're gonna do 2 teams. It's a savings of $2,000 a year. We gotta have everything we can get. Grand total is $74,749, round one. I will tell you, we did this last year, we did this the year before. I was with Mr. Susker for all those years of reductions there. This was the hardest. If this community doesn't think we're at our bottom, they are wrong. We really struggled to find this $74,000. But this is what we're presenting for tonight.
Questions? Last year, we dipped into our reserves, which is kind of controversial, I guess. You want to have enough money in your account to pay bills now and future, but I wonder where we are in that, having taken that $100,000 to reduce last year's cuts. Would we be able to do that again?
Well, because we've done so much of internally, no, no, no. You ask the teachers or anyone that works here, they ask for anything, it's usually a no. We are up to a 12% fund balance, which is, better than it's been.
Where are we at? Are we at like 6 or 7?
8, 9,
8?
yeah.
Okay.
So we don't know where we'll be at the end.
Right.
But I think you can look at using that a small portion again. But again, we won't know till the end of the year. More like round 3 kind of things.
It seems to be a static number. Sometimes we're up, and in other months it's just like
and then,
half that amount.
Yep, it changes. You're right.
No, because last fall, and I know Josh was saying it's not real, but we put like 133 into it after we'd used the 100 out, so it almost netted out, but it wasn't all at one time or something.
Well, and you don't know at the end of the year what you're going to roll over.
Right.
If every account had $200 left in it, I'm going to roll all that money over, and everyone's being very conscious of what we're spending. So, we won't know that number till the end of the year.
Right.
Unless you
September.
immediately want to do a spending freeze, but then that can be real dangerous too, so.
When is our timetable, did you say, for round 3, let's say, our final decisions?
I gave you the list that we have to have teachers notified by May what? Lori, help me. What's round 3?
Round 3, you'll start discussing on March 25th, and the final.
Oh, it's in your
audit
packet.
cuts is April 8th.
It's attachment H in your packet. So we'd have some time, but again, we want to do it like last year. I want it really slow. I want you to really think about the reductions before we do those things, so.
I guess my one question I have in here is one district cashier. So currently you have one up at the high school and you have one at the elementary school?
Correct.
We're both sitting here.
What's that?
They're both sitting here asking questions.
I'm just trying to figure out, in my own mind, how the elementary kids get taken care of as far as paying for the lunches and all that stuff that they use cashier for. At the same time, I'm assuming the high school kids would be trying to utilize it at the same time.
They would have to probably, like you're thinking, turning in lunch money. For those 3 hours, like Phyllis does that, money would probably have to go to a secretary, and then. So, you're touching multiple hands with that, and that's not always the best either. It's a good point. We're in a unique situation where we have one campus but 2 buildings.
Right.
So it's not necessarily ideal. And I will tell you that both of them, both of our cashiers are that automatic, we're short a secretary, we're short this. It's hitting the secretarial pool, but we're kind of at our end. We're trying to be creative.
Can we, and I should know this probably, can we pay like online credit card and not have them bring them, promote that more?
Yep.
How about the, right here, the reduction of the nurse? We're at 2.2 now. Does there have to be, and what are we losing out on, but does there have to be an RN for every, there's what, 2 LPNs?
We have
as
to
well?
have an RN.
And in RN in this school, in the elementary,
No,
and RN
we have to have
here?
an RN to supervise. Say we had 6 nurses, we still have to have 1 RN to supervise the LPNs. You
The
can't
LPN.
hire all LPNs. I know that would be a cost savings, but it's illegal to do, you can't.
What do we lose out on going from a 2.2 to 2.0, how's that, can you explain how that's set up again?
Well, we lose a lot, because right now we have amazing nurse services. I mean, they cover everything. I mean, we're talking ALC, Riverside, high school, middle school, elementary, preschool numbers alone. It's huge. But again, based off of numbers and 2 buildings, I mean, we could go less than 2.0, but I'd feel so scared doing that. We have 2 buildings. I need to have a nurse at all times.
I guess I'm working it the other way, maybe.
What are you losing for
Was
the
it
0.2?
2.2, is that going from a 2.2 to 2.0? Why do we have the 2.2 in the first place?
What I
Because of
would-
Riverside, or is that, what are we gonna lose out on?
It's such a great point. Sherry is already going to consider hiring a .5 nurse for all her needs at the Riverside. That's not confirmed yet, but that's what she's looking at. And I do think Jake needs to look at his budget, and I think he needs to contract, even if it's that .2, whatever he needs for nursing services, he's gonna have to cover. Because right now, we're covering it all, and I'm not getting any reimbursement for it. You know, I'm responsible for pre-K-12.
Yeah.
We just have really high nursing needs in our district. People will say 2 is too high, and I disagree with that. We just really have some unique needs in our district.
But we'll be doing ourselves a disservice doing this, I guess, would be a good question to ask too.
I feel like all of these are somewhat of
Well,
a
true.
disservice, but.
That's true, yeah.
If Riverside can get covered by Sherry Johnson, and if Jake, he won't look at me. If he can figure out how to work in that preschool, we've got some needs there that used to not be there, and if we can work something out with him, I think we can do that.
We can't charge him for a nurse.
We could look at charging him back. It'd be easier if he, I don't know, I guess we never really talked about it. His budget's tight too. I mean, we really, community ed's.
Charge him?
Well, and he'll have to do some reconfiguring, and maybe that's something we can do without canning kids kindergarten now, you know.
Well, whether it be 2 or 2.2, if the need isn't there for 2.2, if we went to 2, I'd still ready to charge Jake a little bit more.
I agree.
We
But
can.
Is that
This
bad?
nursing is completely separate than the trainer that is at all the events, correct?
Right, oh, that's, yeah, Beth
That's amazing.
Sundquist isn't anything to do with this. We have 2.2 nurses. And you know, I've heard a lot of people calling and saying, you have 4 nurses. We don't. They all really are passionate about being part-time, and I've never felt like we have a lot of nurses. They really work well together. They are a tag team. They sub for each other. I mean, how much of a blessing is that when you've got one that's gone and they already know the system? We don't have to worry about the sub nurse. So it's, they go on field trips. I mean, we've had some really situations that our nurses, it's a tough one. It was tough to even put on here, but the people that are using our nurses need to contract their, I can't continue to just provide services at no cost. I should say we can't.
Moving on to the technology coordinator, are we looking at then contracting, Marco? Is that what that
It's
would be
really
called?
early. This is even a low number. We can really do some reconfiguring. Yeah, it's not an exact number, but it's very, very doable, working through Marco.
Okay.
And that means we still have a Sandy Sherritt, and we still need that position at the high school. You need that person on campus. I'm
Right.
not saying, you know, this person's working from Marco in wherever they're from. You still need that on-site person, but we can reconfigure the way we've got it. Yep.
Okay. And when would that be more solid of a number?
That would be more solid as soon as the person that has very openly told us she's retiring puts a letter in. But again, I don't want to, retirement's a big decision. I want to make sure everyone's comfortable with it.
And so tonight, this is just discussion?
Just
We're not
discussion.
voting to cut anything at this
Nope,
point? You're just showing us.
I
laying
don't
us
want you to do
round one,
anything.
what your reduction ideas are.
And when we do go to the cut, we'll do each item one by one,
Yep.
just like we did before, so. And you can, if you want to, you could do me a favor, if anyone wants anything removed tonight, let me know that, because then I can meet with Breakfast Club on Wednesday and we'll remove it. It tells us where we're at. I'm just looking for feedback from you guys.
No problem.
Okay, any other discussion? If not,
I'll make a motion.
We don't have to.
No, this is just
Oh.
discussion.
There's a motion.
We can just take that off?
Yeah, that's true, Jerry, you were right. Joe's a motion item.
I'll make a motion, we move on. I'll third it.
All right, tour of the facility, that ain't gonna happen. Just, if you'd be in conflict with a sporting event, let's just table it for another time. Reports. Board members?
Well, this Thursday is the special ed, everything special ed, your
Mosquito.
third notice. There's some kind of prize if all board members show up. I know it's gonna be.
And I have 2 meetings at the
Something
same
really
time, so you
great.
guys all better be there.
Don't let me forget.
This is your reminder,
It starts at,
5:30
it's at
Thursday.
Westito, starts at 5:30.
I'll send you a text.
They have,
Send me one.
not that this is the decision maker, but they do have
Brenda's
really
the
good food.
liaison, so
I
she'll
know.
send you all email reminders.
Cheesecake too, by the
Okay.
way, last year's what they had.
She apparently is getting a prize for this.
Brenda, didn't they have cheesecake as a dessert?
Yes, they did have
Yes.
cheesecake.
Okay,
Just letting you know.
so our special ed, 5:30 this Thursday
At Westito.
I know it's.
at Westito.
And I get a prize if I show up?
No, everyone shows
If
up.
our whole
so-
board shows up, we get some kind of prize.
You get some sticky
So you get,
notes.
We get sticky notes.
And a folder with
That's what I
information.
need.
Okay, let's bring it back in. Who else has anything for the cause here? Board members?
you want to talk about MSBA at all? I went up to MSBA to the conference and I went to a ramp, which I thought was interesting. I shot it over to you, Tim. Did you get a chance to look at it at all?
I attended a workshop on that.
Did you?
Last year, or the year before last.
Okay, what'd you think of it?
It sounds great, other than what it would cost to implement.
And they didn't mention any of the costs at all.
Very
What are we
expensive.
talking about?
What it is, it's called RAMP, and it's a program sponsored by the University of Minnesota. And they bring someone into the school. And yeah, the costs are, you need a principal, a guidance counselor, and a teacher that meets with kids once a week for 30 minutes. Starting in 6th grade up to when they're a senior, it prepares them for post-secondary. It doesn't matter if they're going to a 4-year degree college, going to a technical college, or not going to college. But it builds up all the pillars from social skills, financial readiness, academic readiness. There's only 3 of them. There were 3 more. But it does prepare kids so that if they do choose to go on to continuing their education, they're ready in all realms. As the instructor said, and she used to be a middle school principal in Austin, I believe, Minnesota. You'll have kids that go to college and sometimes are actually smart enough to go to the classes, but they have too much fun because they're not socially ready. So it prepares them for all that, but it is a 6th through 12th grade implementation that I found very interesting. And yeah, there is cost associated. I don't think the university costs us anything. I know the principal, if he were to require extra stipend, and the guidance counselor, the teacher would.
No, the cost would be in staffing the
Yeah.
class. So.
Okay, anyone else?
I guess I went to another one, and they talked a lot about Title IX as to sports and fundraising for making sure that they're equivalent to, male versus female sports, and that it's balanced throughout, and that might be something we want to look at further down the road too, make sure that we're up to par and all that stuff, so, some interesting stuff.
I thought our speaker was amazing.
Yeah,
Probably one of the
yeah.
best speakers I've ever seen at any conference. It was really good. I thought.
Or the General Assembly speaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sherry Johnson said that too.
Yeah.
And so did Laura.
It was good.
Okay, Kaylee, you're on.
Alright. Apparently the 6th grade Just for Kicks dance team got first place in St. Cloud.
Cool.
So sort of
Sweet.
building them up from a young age.
Go dance.
I'm not completely sure on what this is, and maybe Mr. Hodges knows, but there was some sort of 8th grade math competition, Math 44 or something. I don't know, we had 2 8th graders that did really well in it apparently, and we had another one who was an honorable mention.
I don't think
No,
it's called
mine's
that.
a lady.
I asked Mr. Quinlan, and he had no idea what it was, so.
So we got a couple rogue 8th graders?
Got
Got a couple rogue math 8th graders out there?
It's math
Just wonder how they got
counts.
there.
Math counts, okay.
Oh, that makes sense. Math counts.
Yeah. 7th grade girls basketball defeated Pine Island last Friday, 30-18. And they have now won 14 out of their last 15 games.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
So doing really well. even at this point in the season. Students got their grades today, and I think we're getting the ball rolling on registration. And I know Mr. Hodges and Mrs. Hoffman are having a meeting on AP and honors courses, and what is that, Wednesday?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay, tomorrow night at 7:15. Also talking about PSEO and those opportunities afforded to high school students. Speech had their workshop last Saturday, and they have their first tournament this Saturday at Rochester Lourdes. One act placed 4th at subsections a couple of weeks ago. I think it was 2 Saturdays ago now. So they are not going to be advancing to sections, but still had a very good showing overall. We the People is beginning their fundraising activities. Mr. Fogarty was awarded the 2013 Distinguished Service Award by the Minnesota Debate Association at the state competition a couple weeks ago also. So kudos to him, as always. And the music department is beginning their chocolate and Yankee candle sale that ends February 8th, so you only have a couple weeks, so find
Get
your
your
students.
chocolate.
Yeah.
Buy a candle, but that chocolate, they can stay
You know what
away.
the grade is for the one act play? That one's like a 9th grader, what was the other one?
Hmm?
The age of the one act play students.
Oh, it's 9 through 12, so.
What was the 9th grade, you know what the other one was?
The ones who were.
That took 4th.
No,
One act play.
it's the entire like cast. Like the
Okay.
play as a whole
Okay.
is ranked in relation to other schools'
Okay.
plays.
Are you talking about the 2 students who won, like, HBL?
Yeah, they were HVL star performers. There was
Okay.
They're-
a sophomore and a senior, I believe.
Okay.
I believe.
You're right.
Okay.
Anything else for us?
That's about it. Yep.
Busy?
Yeah, as always.
Upcoming meetings, set a date for the annual board goal setting meeting, which I was hoping we would do this evening, but I'm not sure if anybody brought their calendars or not.
Let me check mine real quick. Oh, I'm open.
Nice.
Pick a day.
Yeah.
Geez, I happen to be open that day.
Evenings, we have conflicts many evenings. If it's not athletic events, it's other school activities, social activities. Does anybody have a?
Second or fourth Monday of every month is semi-open, pretty much.
Good, Brett.
Well, we've done them
Yeah.
before on Wednesday
Well,
nights, and they work real well for me. Otherwise, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays as well.
Saturdays are short.
Notice I left Saturday and Sunday.
Saturdays are nice only because there's all the school stuff going on.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that,
Wednesday,
Monday, Tuesday,
Yeah.
Wednesday would be fine. I'm not so sure with like dance coming up and that's
Okay.
just
That's-
states and all that, I don't know when
Yep.
that might fall in, but.
Okay, we'll continue to strive to find a date and B, a location.
Pick a day other than the
So,
Saturday's gonna be after 10.
Maybe I'll just email you out and see if you can throw me some dates out, if
Maybe
that's
pick
okay to
3
do,
and
Lori.
vote on 3 or something.
Yeah.
Yes, he says yes, that's okay to do.
Mhm.
So we'll throw out some dates, see what
Just put
sticks.
a wild card meeting too.
Regular board meeting, our next one is February 11th, and at that board meeting, we'll vote on these reductions or any additional reductions that are brought to the table. Again, please let the soup know if you've got any additional things you'd like in discussion. Maybe they're already on the table for 2 and 3, but if you have any concerns, let her know. And then also at the February 11th meeting, we have a PBIS presentation. And unless anyone has specifically another addition to that, if you do, yes?
No, not to the agenda, another meeting.
Another meeting?
Yes, curriculum meeting next Monday. At 5 o'clock.
Okay. If you have any other agenda additions, please let Beth or Lori know. Okay, public forum. Anyone wish to speak?
I've got it, I'll send it out. It's March.
Anyone wish to speak about anything having to do with this meeting or others? Please raise your hand and identify yourself. Phyllis?
I was wondering if, regarding the $12,000 that is proposed on the office secretarial cut, if there was a different proposal for that amount of money or more that the board would consider, and keeping all of the staff members would stay, continuing their jobs, of a different idea of a cut. start.
Are you asking for that line item to be removed and to be reevaluated?
What you're asking for is if we bring back something creatively the same, would you be interested in listening to that? And I would say we would all agree to that.
I just think it's in the best for both of the buildings, all of the students, the support the rest of the staff gets from the office. We are the grunts. We do all of the stuff that they haven't got time for, back up everybody, basically. And the secretaries do have a proposal. if we would like to.
And I think Breakfast Club would be very interested, we're meeting Wednesday morning, and they would be really interested in hearing that proposal, so.
We're always open for ideas on that.
Absolutely.
Okay, Terry?
I'm Terry Rudd. I want to just first of all applaud you for this hard job, because when I come, I get a better sense of what is happening in our district. And I know that the decisions you make to cut are really hard. And of course, I'm only familiar with the elementary staff and what the workings are down there, but I can attest that both the nurse and our cashier, who's really not always a cashier, are really two things down there that are vital for our young kids. And, you know, sometimes I think, well, the kids up here, you know, they might have a cell phone in their locker. They can call a mom if they're sick and say, you know, Mom, I don't feel good or something. But we have little kids, and they don't know what to do when they're sick. And when they're sick, we need to send them someplace. And Phyllis is wonderful, not just as a cashier. You know, when there are late starts like today, I walked in to ask a question, and she had just checked in, and Terry was on a phone, and she was on a phone, and they were explaining, you know, things of what was happening. And she does a lot for us teachers. And when there is a machine broken down, and we're like, how do we fix this? She's in there. I'm not, she has
It's
read
true.
the
She can fix
manual.
anything.
She
That is
has
the truth.
read the manual on the
Mechanic's
machines.
daughter.
So she's much more than just a cashier. Today we were short in the lunchroom, and we had a nurse come in with her gloves on and wash tables for our lunchroom staff.
It's my day off, so it's not like I left the nurse's office.
No. She came in to wash tables. I mean, they are just vital. And I think when we're looking at those preschoolers and all-day kindergartners, and kids are coming in bewildered, what do? We need those staff and those people. And Phyllis stands and scans those cards. Those kids are very comfortable. They see her every day, so that when they are sent to the office, they see a familiar face. So I just want to applaud you for your hard work, but these are two areas that are really vital, at least for our building.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes.
I'm Nurse Julie. I don't have a last name. I would like to explain to each of you, and I'll write it down because it is difficult to understand what the difference that 0.2 makes. If you look at it from other schools, say that same thing. It's not a 2.2. They call it a 1.9 based on the way they do it. Yes, we have LSNs and LPNs. We do different jobs. RNs, LSNs have a duty to supervise LPNs. We have not only different ways of doing that, but we have to have a medical license to function in your educational world. And so there are things that we do that meet our RN license, and there are things that we do in your educational world. And our overlap consists of a lot of things, and we consider that is supervising in our overlap time, this half a day that we do with our LPN. We're supervising, we're assessing our responsibility in everything that happens. Every med that's given, if I'm there or not, is on my nursing license. We're planning, assessing, and evaluating because those are what nursing licenses say we do. If we look at it and what do we do in the educational world, in the contract that says that's prep time. So really my overlap time is my prep time because there's a kid in there all the time. There is a kid in my office from 7:30 to 3:30, and yours is worse. The high school saw almost 6,000 kids already that we did things used to, and the elementary school is 4 something. I mean, that's a lot of visits. We don't have that prep time. I often, kid you not, have discussions with children while I'm in the bathroom because they're standing on the other side of the door. It happens. That overlap time to us is important. In your educational world, it's important because that's my prep time. But really, I'm in the building at the same time as the LPN. Great, I'm doing my prep then, but I'm going for IEP things. I'm running for kids. I'm doing screening. I'm doing that, but I'm also supervising that person. And to us in our nursing license, that's important. And we want to try to explain that to you a little better because I think that is a valuable service. And if we take away that overlap, we take away some of that stuff, and we may have to run more often, and then we leave the office people. Okay, you watch that kindergartner because I have to go screen this kid and do this IEP and go to this meeting. Well, who, if we cut in that office, who's going to sit with that scared kindergartner, or the one who's throwing up, whose mom lives in Minneapolis or works in Minneapolis, so she has to get here? You know, we go without lunch because somebody needs to stay with that child and calm them down. And high school is the same way. So I'd just like to ask you to consider that one again, and I will explain in any fashion, I think all of us nurses will, if there's anything more that you need to do about what we do.
And just to clarify, that's why I want to confirm the .2 from either community ed or Sherry, because I'm not looking at cutting that number. I just need funding to come from somewhere else. It's not fair that a lot of the things you do are helping community ed and are helping those things. So I just needed to.
It was discussed years ago. I'm really sorry, you weren't even here then. That when
Sorry,
it got
poor
to
Jake.
be, when we know that kids are coming into school with more health needs, and that happens every year, and we knew that someday this would get to be, when it got to be overwhelming for the nurses to handle that just as a, hey, you can come in and I'll check your temp. And now that we even have all-day preschool, it is more kids that are coming in and using that. And we keep track of all of that, so we do know that it does take more time and more effort to do the preschool pieces now. And even having the ALC in Riverside in another building, that does take time, and we do need to have them reimburse that so that we can continue to function like that.
And they won't reimburse until we cut it. So that, I mean, that's kind of, I want to defend the Breakfast Club here. No one wants it to go less than 2.2. We just need them to fund their portion. And I don't think asking them to pay $7,000 for all the services they get. So I don't look at the positions changing at all next year. I mean, we need a 1.0 and a 1.0 for sure, but the additional duties need to be covered by, even if they each take half that cost, and keep everything exactly the same the way it is now. But they won't help me fund that until I cut it. They're not gonna start paying something until we reduce fund. So I think, and just defending, it really came up at Breakfast Club that they defended that they really wanna leave the 2.2.
Well, let's keep this into the public forum rather
Yep.
than the
Sorry, I'm just-
big action
yep.
item. So, thank
Fair
you,
enough.
Julie. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay, public forum session is closed. Now, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Rob.
Second.
Seconded by Pat. Further discussion? All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is carried. We are adjourned.